In the last section, we defined our virtual field of post count and then assigned this getter property to it, or we called this getter property is what I really should say. I then started to talk a little bit about, well, when we're referencing joe.postCount, we're not actually just grabbing this property, we're actually kind of running a function or something like that. I don't know, a bunch of confusing stuff. So let's write a little bit of code and get a little bit more familiar with how this thing works by running this code at the console manually. Inside of this get function, or the function that we pass to get, I'm going to just add in a console log. So I want to add something and just say hi, like so. Okay. So let's run our code at the terminal, and then we're going to just kind of see how this whole virtual property thing works. So I'm going to flip over to my terminal, and inside of my project directory, I'm going to run the command node. Okay, so this is going to start up my node shell. And inside of here, we can write any amount of arbitrary JavaScript that we want. So I can say like, 1 + 1 and get back 2. So inside of this node shell, I want to require in our user model. I want to create a new user, and then I just want to kind of play around with it a little bit and see how this post count virtual field works. So first, I'm going to require in the user model. So I will say const user equals require source user. Notice that this require right here is assuming that I started up my node shell while in my users directory. So make sure that you started up your node shell while in users or your project directory. You might have named it something different. And once you're in there, you can do the require source user. So I'll run this right here, and that will require in user and assign it to user. So right now my user, capital U user variable, is my actual like mongoose model. If you ran that command right there, the require statement, and you got an error with the require, that means that you probably didn't run your node shell, the node command right here, from the correct directory. So make sure that you're running it from your project directory. Okay, so now that we've got our user model required in, we're going to create a new user object. So I'm going to say Joe equals new user, like so. And we're not going to give him any properties right now. We're just going to require Joe in. So now I'm going to reference joe.postCount. So when I run this, it's going to look like I'm just trying to print out a variable, right? Like I just want to see what exists on the property postCount. But because we have defined a virtual field of postCount that has a getter assigned to it, rather than giving us the just like straight up raw value of postCount right here, this function is going to execute instead. And so when we access postCount, we should see a console log of hi pop up. So let's run this. And okay, well that's definitely not good. Oh, boy, that's a bad typo, jost. All right, joe.postCount, my bad. You gotta understand, like talking and typing, sometimes it's a little bit challenging. Okay, so anyways, joe.postCount, there's our big console log of hi. So clearly there is some real big magic inside of here. So this is definitely at odds with stuff like, when we access our ID, or if we had a name, which we don't have, where we just kind of like look at this property and just dump the value out. PostCount is now a virtual field, and so when we reference PostCount, we run a function, and whatever gets returned from that function will get logged out. So let's now try to enhance our getter inside of here a little bit. The next thing I want you to think about is when we run this function right here, we need to somehow get access to our list of posts sitting on the user model. So how are we gonna like actually reference a user, like the particular user, and figure out what posts they have? Well, I'm going to add in a statement in here. I'm gonna say just return this, okay? It's gonna say return this. So let's now test this at the shell again and see exactly what's going on. So I'm going to stop my shell entirely. I'm gonna run node again. And I'm going to define users again. I'll say require source user. And I assign that to users. Really, it should just be user. So I'm going to require it in again. Okay, so I've now got user again. I'll make Joe once again. I'll say Joe is a new user. And now again, I'm going to reference joe.postCount. So now when I run this, that's interesting. When I run this, I get back just the same properties that exist on Joe. So here's the real magic behind this getter. besides the fact that, it's a fancy function that runs whenever you reference the property. If we want to access any of the properties that exist on a particular user, so like in this case, I want to look at this post list right here that exists on Joe, right? I want to look at joe.posts. We can reference this. So instead of saying joe.posts inside of here, I could say this.posts. This will refer to the instance of the model that we're working on. So let's update this now to this.post.length. And now when we reference this right here, it should return the number of posts that are associated with a given model instance. As a quick aside, this whole system right here of referring to this to get access to the current instance of the model is why we use the keyword function here instead of a fat arrow function. If we use a fat arrow function like so, the context or the value of this is going to be bound to this whole file right here. And so this will not refer to the instance of the user model. It will be like, this whole file right here, whatever is equal to this outside here. So this is one of the very rare cases in which you do not want to use a fat arrow function. Definitely want to make sure we use a keyword function so the value of this does not get clobbered. Okay, so let's save this and we'll do one more test, just one last time to make sure everything is working the way we expect. So I'm going to end my node shell with Control-C. I'll start it back up again. We'll say user is require source user. We'll make Joe again. And this time around, I'm going to give him a single post. So I'll give him a title of ASDF. What the heck? So here's Joe. Joe now has a post associated with him. And so this time around, when I reference joe.postCount, I end up getting back 1. Because when I reference joe.postCount, this inner function runs right here. This is equal to Joe. We reference joe.posts.length and we get back 1. Okay, so that's pretty much virtual fields in a nutshell. Let's kill our terminal here, or our shell. Let's flip back over to our test file now, and I kind of expect my test to run now. So I'm going to start up my tests again with npm run test, and let's see how we're doing. So now my tests are passing successfully. So it looks like we are successfully pulling out the number of posts by looking directly at the list or the list of posts in that subdocument array. You'll also notice I've now got one pending test in here as well because we kind of temporarily X'd out that one test inside of our update file. Okay, so this is definitely looking good. We've got a better handle on virtual fields with getters. Let's continue in the next section and we'll flip over to our update test file and see if we can't make another kind of reasonable update to our test where we were previously asserting our post count was being incremented. So let's tackle that in the next section.